to not be okay. I'm Rae Bonney, a qualified counsellor, workplace mental health specialist, and not to mention a very dedicated and oftentimes enthusiastically disruptive men's issues advocate. It's not every girl's dream job, but hey, remember, men also matter. Can you believe we're well into May 2022 and hurtling towards what looks like to be a freezing Melbourne winter? But it's kind of nice to rug up and wrap up and get behind, I was going to say, but in front of a nice warm fire. Anyway, today, as always, I continue to unwrap one of the greatest gifts going around, and that is people. Layer by layer, we explore the thoughts, experiences, achievements, and challenges of ordinary people bound to inspire the best you. So turn up your radio. The time is just 1 minute past 10. Now, I was going to say we just missed hearing from the beautiful and talented Michelle Ciccardo and her much accomplished Italian program this morning, but she did happen to make it in. So we're glad that you're feeling better, Michelle. And as always, what a wonderful show. Now, just a little introduction to mine. It was exactly 4 years ago, yesterday I believe, that I had the pleasure of speaking alongside AFL Women's Champion Alison Downie at the Sandringham Zebras President's Ladies' Day Lunch and Beyond Blue Round. What a mouthful that is. I'll forever remember how Alison captivated the room as she described her experience as an elite sports person, coupled with managing some significant mental health challenges. And back then, Alison wore number 30 for Carlton and had the honour of playing in the first ever women's match between Carlton and Collingwood. Or was it Carlton and Collingwood? In front of a record crowd on Friday the 3rd of February in 2017. And according to Google, she did notch up a total of 31 games for the Blues up until about 2021. But unexpectedly, they opted not to review her contract in 2022. But Collingwood were on the hunt for a gun ruck, and this superstar was not ready to hang up her boots. So it's taken me 4 years to entice you to the 3WBC studios, Alison, and welcome. I'm just going to turn you up a little bit, make sure our levels are okay. Now, we did meet at that Sandringham Zebras match that day, it was the President's Lunch, and I really didn't know who I was going to be speaking with and had no idea what you would be talking about. And I was really taken, and so was my daughter Rose, who was there, because it was Mother's Day. It was Mother's Day. And, we were taken by what you were speaking about on that day. Can you remember much about it?
I remember you, but no, I don't really remember what it was that we were talking about. I remember your chats,
Yep.
So and yours, what the work that you're doing in terms of men's mental health and the stats, quite shocking when I was listening to your speech. So I know I drew a little bit off that from my experiences, but I think what I was talking more about the initial game and sort of women in sport and how it sort of changed the pathways for women coming through, the girls, yeah.
Yeah, that's right, because your entree into sport was with basketball, really, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
From what age did you...
So I failed as a dancer. My sister was a dancer. So I failed at that. That was not my calling. So I think I picked up basketball at about 8.
Yeah.
And took it through all the way to until footy started. So whenever that was, 2017 really. But because football wasn't there for me. I loved it, but just women didn't play that. That wasn't.
Did you play it though? Like
I played Vic kick.
Right.
And I kicked with the boys at primary school, and I did all of that. And I when Dad got home from work, we'd go across the road and kick the footy, and I loved it. Massive fan and watched it every week. But you just didn't play, so
yeah. Well, I know back when I was in high school, back in the late 70s, early 80s, girls were starting to play football. I was a mad Essendon supporter and really wanted to play as well, but we just weren't allowed because it was considered too dangerous for girls.
Yeah, and that was the thing. So basketball was probably the next thing. Not too bad at it. Made a women's career out of it for a time. So I played that in the WNBL for 16 years and notched up 326 games.
Wow.
And then, the the inkling of footy coming out, and I thought, and I had been playing just local league.
Yep.
And I thought, oh, I'll give it a crack and see how I go. And just the way that they sold how the season was going to be, because they understood that women were working, and so everything would be outside hours. And basketball had started to migrate into that sort of more full time, and it suited those that were at uni, but not those that were working full time. And the money to be playing basketball wasn't enough for me to go, I'm going to kick in the job. And I was probably towards the end of my career. You know, you've played over 300 games. You're sort of looking at the end, and you know, I was early 30s. So that idea that footy was starting, I thought, I'll see what happens there, and got drafted, and here I am. I gave myself 3 years. I thought if I can get 3 years out of it, that's a big tick, and anything after that is a bonus. So finished off the 6th year and going into a 7th. So
wow.
Can't complain.
Well, because when I met you in 2017, that was, I mean, you were still with Carlton at the time, and probably right in the throes of, you know, like women's football really, really ramping up and becoming quite popular. What happened from then to now? Because we had the pandemic. Has that affected the popularity of women's football?
I don't think it's affected the popularity, but I think, and I'm sure that everyone, if they're following the idea of when we play and the season, the timings of the season, I don't think it's been as highly sought after to watch. However, you know, our season keeps chopping and changing. So, and we're playing in the middle of summer, and you can see towards the end of a pandemic, no one wants to go and sit and watch. I shouldn't say no one, but you know, we've just started to get that freedom. It's school holidays. Where are people going to go? They're going to go away. They're not going to, you know, if you're around, you'll come to the football. But, you know, we're playing at 12:30 on a Saturday afternoon in 30-degree heat. It's probably not the best space to be sitting. There's no shade. So you can see why the AFL have started to try and go, well, hang on, maybe the middle of summer is not ideal for football, and
from a health perspective either.
That too. But people coming to watch, you know, it's probably not as enticing as it would be. I think they're looking at an August start now, to be playing through that period and coming into summer rather than in that real dead heat of summer. So, you know,
this might sound a really naive question, but why can't you play during the men's fixture?
I don't know. I think that's the ultimate goal. But I think they're trying to give us a bit more of our own airspace so that we're not fighting with the men, because we know that the media will talk about the men more
attention.
Than, of course. And I understand that we're still very new, and our brand, we're still trying to probably put our brand out there that we're not the same as men. We don't play the game the same. The rules are a little bit different. We've got less players on the field. And it's a bit like all sports. I think women's basketball is different to men's basketball. You know, the cricket's different. So
what rules are different?
There's 16 to a side, so we've got 16 instead of 18. We have that last touch. So if you kick it out of bounds between the two 50s, that's a free kick to the other team. So whereas it would be a throw in for the men. I think that's pretty much it.
But what purpose does that serve? Is it?
They say it's less congestion because we have more ball ups, because I think we can't kick as far, those sort of things. So it's the ball can become a little bit more congested in our game. I think it's getting a whole lot better. From year one to now is miles apart. But as I said, our brand is different. We're not men playing AFL. We're women playing AFLW, and you know, it's the same football and it's the same idea of things.
Do you play on the same grounds as well?
No, we play on more local grounds.
Okay.
They're still big.
Yeah.
There's still some big grounds. So, you know, but we might have more elements to ours because, you know, we're not in a closed roof like Eddie had or anything like that. So we've got the rain and the wind and when you play at grounds where the stands have been knocked down, so GMHBA and Icon Park at the moment, you know, ground part of that's been knocked down, so the wind, it becomes quite a wind tunnel.
Oh, right.
So you've got all of those things to play with. But people shouldn't be comparing us to the men, because it is a different game, and it's probably a little bit more of a thinking game, because we're not as fast and strong. So you kind of see those structures a little bit better than you do with the men at times, because they can sort of.
Would you say that you're more agile and nimble than men?
I suppose you could say that, but they're just strong. They've got that brute force, mind you. Some of the girls,
I was saying when I'm watching my daughter play netball, it's frightening. It's very aggressive and lots of contact. Lots of contact. In fact, I went to the footy the other night to see Essendon and Hawthorn at Etihad, and I'd not been for a while to the football, and just seeing, as you said, that brute force and the speed and the agility, and it's just so remarkable about what they achieve, these men. And I work quite a lot with some AFL players around mental health, and it's a really big issue around the pressure, the media, the competition, the expectation. What is it like for women?
I don't, it's nowhere near that. And you can see, now that I'm in the system, I can see why there would be such high prevalence of that. They're kids coming into this environment that's so high pressure. We play, in those first few seasons, we're playing 6, 8 games. We now play 10. You can't afford to lose one. So for us, it's almost like a final series every week. For the men, you've got a bit more time, but for them, it then becomes a pressure on performance and trying to get yourself into the team. But the media and those keyboard warriors can be absolutely brutal when you have a bad game. Yeah. So I see why men would have those mental health issues and probably don't talk about it enough. Or identify it early, because it is okay, and you understand why. For us, I think you could probably get yourself in amongst that and read what people write. We know with Taylor Harris and all of like when that photo that went viral and the comments that were on that were horrendous. I think as women we could probably step away from it a bit, because as I was saying to you earlier, a lot of us are not full-time athletes, so that is not our life, and you can step away and you've got
other identities.
You do. And I, when I'm at my work, people don't know I play football. Some end up, they find out, but so it's almost like I can step away and I'm Al Downie at work, and then I'm Al Downie at football, and it's quite separate. But men can't separate that, and it's such a big following. They walk down the street, people see them and tell them what they think, which can be a good thing and a bad thing.
Well, quite often a bad thing. It's funny, I was talking to Simon Madden the other night. Simon used to play for Essendon back in the day. We call it the golden days of footy, where they all had full-time jobs and played back then. And he was a lawyer back then, and we're just talking about the differences now, sort of, the mental health challenges, and, so they're not really comparable, the times, because they're quite different. Yep. But the pressure is immense. But I didn't know this, because we haven't really spoken at all in the last 4 years. And I was just asking you before about, what do you do outside of footy? And I didn't know that you work in health and safety, and you'd been with WorkSafe for such a long time. Mm-hmm. What's that space like?
So I worked in a WorkCover. I worked at the agents.
A WorkCover.
Sorry. So I worked at WorkCover claims management. Yep. That's got into that about 6.5 years ago. That system has changed completely. Yeah. When I first started, it was you get paid to terminate people. Yes. But now they've switched around, and now it is about recovery and return to work. Yeah. So, and return to work being part of your recovery. And the last few things that I was doing there was working with clinicians that work at WorkSafe and WorkSafe, and we're trying to integrate that, where the clinicians can talk to workers' treaters and sort of relay that understanding of, we're not trying to cut people off, and we're not trying to push them to do things they can't do, but return to work is a good stepping stone to recovery, because we know the longer that they're off work for, the harder it is to get back into the workforce, and the mental health kicks in. So a physical injury becomes a secondary psych, and you know, that's the last thing we want. So that little step in the door back at work, and also educating employers that you can't hold it against somebody for being injured at work.
But do you think the stigma's still there though?
Of course it is.
Yeah.
Of course it is. But, you know, we're trying to break through that. But it's, you know, there's a stigma for mental health, and we're trying to break through that. So, but I understand why.
With some of those changes to work cover as well in terms of psychological safety, I know that the forms were redesigned probably last year, and I work with a lot of clients in construction, and their concern being that for some of these small businesses, it's sort of like, oh, you've got a physical injury, and then on page 4, it's like, could this be a mental health injury as well? And, you know, these sectors and industries being really, really concerned that they're going to have so many claims, it's going to be very detrimental to staying in business. You know, a small business with one claim can really put them out.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I guess that's the thing that we're trying to, well, I was, because now I've moved, but it was that education for the employers to go, let's try and get them back as quickly as you can, and change those practices. And if you can get them back earlier, it's less likely to be a mental injury, because you know, you're off work, you think people are talking about you, people don't believe that you're really injured, all those things. But if you can get back into the workplace and they're supportive, it goes a long way. But now I'm in construction and doing a safety role. So it's very different, and my brain is overloaded, and I've had to go into the office 2 weeks in a row when I've been working at home for 2.5 years. So it's quite a change, but a good little challenge.
What precipitated your move?
I wasn't feeling very valued in the workplace that I was at, and I felt like there was probably something a little bit more out there, and I thought I was getting a bit stuck, you know, and you do feel that way if you're at home, working from home. I enjoyed aspects of it. As I said, you know, dealing with the clinicians, because you get both sides. You get the side of the injured worker, you can see the side of the employers, but then you also see the side of the treaters and what they're hearing and all that sort of stuff. So it was interesting, and I enjoyed it because there was good results in that. Yeah. But, you know, when you're sitting at home, and I didn't feel like I was going to go anywhere in that role, and I was a little bit overworked. I was asking for help, but I wasn't getting it. But it was time to move on. And this opportunity sort of tapped me on the shoulder, and I thought, well, you know, when those things come along, it's best to give them a crack. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I can find something else.
You do think, you know, in your both lives, you know, being in sport and the role that you're just describing, that with the pandemic, that we are more concerned now about the value and the quality of our lives as opposed to before, when we were kind of on treadmills of life and not really all that aware of what was going on around us.
Yeah, I think so. And you sort of, you have that time to step back and go, what about me? You know, and what do you really want? And, you know, I still want to work at home sometimes, but you want to feel valued. And I think when you're not around people, whether it's there or not, sometimes you can miss that, because when you're looking at people through Zoom or email, it's not the same, is it? You don't feel that connection with people. And so when you're feeling a little bit undervalued, you know, you can't, when you're in an office, you see your friends, you see people, and you feel like, you know, no, this is okay, and I've got people to talk to. But when it's over Zoom and you're at home, you know, those frustrations, I think, can really build up.
And you don't really know what's going on for other people as well.
You don't.
At the same time, because, you know, you're only seeing this much.
Absolutely.
For those of you at home, I just gesticulated to the face and shoulders, not seeing everyone's pajama bottoms. And but yeah, the danger as well, that once the cameras are turned off, you know, what does a person experience in, you know, the guilt or imposter syndrome, or, you know, just doubt around, am I doing a good job? And that need to be chained to your computer all the time just to be seen to be active.
Yeah.
Which I don't think was really great.
No.
But working from home generally, I think, has been a good experience. It's demonstrated to employers that employees can be trusted to get their work done and probably be more efficient and effective once you chop out, transport and, having to think about what you're going to wear to work. You can just actually get on and do your job.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's, in the 2 weeks that I've been at this new company, and it is in construction. So the biggest thing...
Can you say who they are?
Oh, it's Fulton Hogan.
Fulton
Hogan.
Yeah, we can talk about
We
them.
can talk about it, of course.
They're a great company.
Yeah.
Great company.
And they, fatigue is a big... That's a big... what am I trying to say? Focus for them.
Yes.
So it's a big focus for them. And you sort of... When you put it into construction, you understand that fatigue can be fatal, can be catastrophic. But at the same time, that working from home, when you're stressed, if you've got kids, that it can, in everyday life, people are fatigued, but you're never going to ring up somebody and go, I'm not coming in today because I'm tired. But that working from home, as you said, it cuts out that travel time. It cuts out, it might just be that one little sleep in that you need that gives you that
bit of energy.
Yeah, and resets you. So,
but unfortunately for people in construction,
no.
You look at FIFO, mining and construction as well, where there's little relief for those people. It's early starts, not so much late finishes, but if we couple that with substance misuse, which is quite prevalent within those spaces as well, we see, saying to you before, still 95% of workplace deaths are men.
Mm-hmm.
And, we see a lot of those attributes that still have not been rectified. What's your take on, I guess, reducing some of those risks for people, especially men?
Yeah, well, I think it starts at the top and should filter down. It's that change of culture and that change of, don't be soft because you're tired and, you'll get through it and all those sort of things. It's about changing that dialogue and getting them to go, if you are fatigued and genuinely fatigued, that is a warning sign, and that is okay to give someone a call up and say, I'm not well. And same with mental health. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. You don't have to have a big slice down your arm to say, I can't work. And obviously there's some not so legitimate people out there, but that happens everywhere.
Yeah.
But if you know yourself that it's not right today, those are the phone calls and the conversations you should be able to have. But I think it starts from the top allow that to happen. And so far, in the 2 weeks I've been there, it seems like that's the sort of way that Fulton Hogan are going in their safety, is that's what they're trying to focus on, and they're trying to reduce the maximum hours people do to reduce the need for them to have those difficult conversations. So, but, as I said, it's from the top, because it's the workers that are afraid to lose their jobs. They're not going to say anything. And it's the same with safety. If you're afraid that people are going to say, I'll just go and do it because it needs to be done, and something bad happens, there's got to be a time where you say no. And if it's coming from the top to say, no, it's okay to say, I don't feel comfortable, then it changes the culture, doesn't it?
It does. And the culture has to come from, as you said, that leadership space, because otherwise nobody has permission to actually, take their foot off the accelerator if they need to. And that often narrative around, you're soft, you're weak, you're letting the team down. And I'll just soldier on. Even my son, he's a chef, and he's not well at the moment, but he's driving into work last night. He goes, my hair even hurts. But he works for he works at Attica with Ben Cherry, and amazing organisation. And Ben himself is a very, very good boss. But people still feel that need that they have to turn up and have to be effective and efficient even when they're not feeling well. Yeah,
and that, I guess, in those sort of environments, you do, if you're calling in sick, you feel like you will let the team down, because either somebody else has to be pulled in, but we know that there's staff shortages. We know that, and particularly in restaurants like that it's such a high level that they cook at. You can't just get some casual off the street to come in and help out. There's no
right.
casual bank that you can call up.
Sous vide the crocodile or something.
That's it. So it's you would have that guilt, and that happens for everyone, I think, is that guilt of letting the team down or putting somebody else out when you are genuinely unwell.
But, even from the mental health perspective, Alison, back in the day there was a formula where people, if they had a mental health challenge and couldn't get into work, would say, I've got diarrhea or gastro, something really hideous. But then they would feel that whole guilt and shame of that day of not being honest. So then they would take another day off just because you don't get over gastro in a day.
No.
So, and then sometimes it would cycle on for up to 5 days that somebody would have time off. Whereas, if we can take a day off for our mental health just to sort of get recalibrated and be understood and also be accepted, then I think we would get back quicker. I
think so too. And I'd love to see in because, you've got your sick leave, but almost to say you've got 5 days of mental health, just for your mental health, that you go, well, it's there to be used.
Yeah.
And whether that, you don't have to be in a deep depression to need a day off. You don't. Because if you're not physically sick, sometimes you feel guilty to have a mental health day. Yeah. Whereas if it's sort of written in your contract to say there's a few days that are specific to mental health, you take those days off, you feel a lot better about that.
Although working with my clients, I think the approach needs to be that when you sign up for, you've just signed up for a new job with Fulton Hogan, and you got a contract and you get a certain amount of leave. I think you should be able to use that leave however you want, and you don't have to disclose why.
No.
And some organisations will demand that you bring a doctor's certificate that's specific, or but I really think it's the right of the human being to use those days that you've been allocated to use as you wish.
Yeah.
And after that, then it's you have to be accountable for turning up.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. It would be good to have that understanding of, I think when you have that induction to go, this is your personal leave, and that is for you to use, and to be almost encouraged to use it to a point. Because I know that working from home, I had no sick day. I had 1 day off for COVID.
Yeah.
And I worked most of the time while I had COVID, and I had 1 day off, but I already had it in as annual leave because I was meant to be travelling for football.
Right.
So it technically wasn't me calling in sick. I just said, look, I'm already having that day off, and you've already rearranged to cover that. So I'll just have it off anyway because I'm not well. But when you're working from home, there's also that little thing on, well, you can just work, can't you? Because you're at home. What's wrong with that? So you can do a little bit here and there.
That's right. You're ultimately available.
Yeah. But I've never used all my sick leave. And obviously you don't have to use it, but it probably would have been more to my benefit. It's there. It should be a part of that induction of, it's encouraged that you use it when you need it, for whatever that is. And you don't have to tell us. Yeah.
Do you have to have much time off for football?
Yeah, we do. Yeah. I don't like to work on game day. So when there's Friday games, and this season that went past, we had Thursday games scheduled, and then there was a time where it was a Thursday, Tuesday sort of thing. And then obviously travel takes a few days off. So
your employers, well, you don't know Fulton Hogan yet, how understanding they are about
that? I think they will be. They do understand. So I did get the job through a few contacts through Collingwood. So they understand what I do. So I believe that they will be accommodating to that. At the same time, being the way that the AFL was structured initially, they did sort of talk about it won't impact on work, particularly the interstate girls, I'm sure it impacts a lot more on them coming from Perth. If you've got to be here for a Friday game, you're travelling out on Thursday. So it does take a few days, or they might go, it's Friday night, but that's 2 days out of your work day. Yeah.
or
if it's a Saturday but you're coming on the Friday, you're missing that day, or you play Sunday and you're going home on the red eye, you're not going to work on Monday, are you? So you need that recovery time.
Again, it's not good for your health really to be extending yourself that much.
Yep.
Can you believe half an hour of the show has already gone, Alison? And I don't think I've covered anything that was actually on my list of questions. But we now come to our very first special guest song request that you've given me a list of. You know what they are, but you don't know what order I've programmed them in. So what I like to do is sort of throw some cryptic clues out, and you actually have to guess what the song is. So here goes: Canadian God and Sometimes Wine. You have to have a think about that. Canadian God and Sometimes Wine.
Do I get more clues? Or is
Well, this person does come from Canada. I can give you some more clues. So it has something to do with thinking more than once.
Oh, Celine Dion.
That's the one.
Yeah,
that's the one. Well,
twice.
I looked her up, and she's Canadian, and Celine. I think Celine means God.
Does it?
Or is it Dion means God? Actually, no, Dion means God.
There we go.
And sometimes God with wine. So perfect combination.
Fantastic.
I'm really terrible with my cryptic questions, and I'm known for it. So after the break, we're going to talk a little bit more about what really ignited your passion for sport. We talked a little bit about your dancing, but really start getting into the weeds of, what it really feels like being you, like on the ground, on the court, and how that's affected and developed you in your life, and where you then later on in the show we can talk about where to next. So here goes. It is Celine Dion with Think Twice, Don't Go Away. And welcome back. The time is 37 minutes past 10 and you're listening to 94.1 FM. It's 3WBC with Rae Bonney and Alison Downie. She's an Australian sportswoman currently playing for Collingwood AFL women for Collingwood in the AFL Women's League. I didn't like to say sportswoman, but it's actually on your Wikipedia page. Do you prefer to be referred to as a sports person?
I don't mind. Wikipedia is done by who knows. I didn't even know who did my Wikipedia. I had to change my my height on there because it was wrong. But
oh really?
Yeah.
By much?
They made me too tall, so I don't like to be looking like I'm too tall. But yeah, no. Well, sports. I suppose sports person. Identify as a woman, so
yeah.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah. So you're all over the pronouns.
Yes, I am. Yes.
We're having a discussion the other day at Chobani. Chobani are one of my very lovely clients who make beautiful yogurt and have a very wonderful philosophy around how they work with people. It's like extending from their owner and founder, Hamdi, who's actually coming to Australia next week for the opening of the new Chobani site. But yeah, we're talking about pronouns, and that I was talking to the new people and culture person, and there was a story about a guy who sort of piped up and said, "Oh, this is ridiculous," and pronouns, it's just become a buzz thing, and then this P&C guide had an experience of a person who had transgendered within his workplace many years ago. And this is really, really important to this person to be identified as the gender that they were going to become during the transition. And the naysayer kind of turned around and said, wow, now that makes sense. Once we put a story to it and meaning to it, why it's so important that, people are able to identify however they like, because it's real for people.
Yeah.
We just sort of see it as this, oh gosh, it's ridiculous, it's popular, it's silly, but it has a lot more meaning than you would ever expect.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's good when people can share those stories, so that you understand, because if you haven't been a part of it, you can see that that lack of understanding and can sort of blow it off a little bit. But to see people and what they go through and how they come to that understanding that this is how they want to identify and what makes them feel good, and they should. I think that's when people have that understanding of, I see why. Yeah.
And I don't think we educate enough.
No.
I've got this be in my bonnet with myself at the moment about, our Indigenous people here in Australia, and we have absolutely no education, no proper education for even, our children who are coming through now, to really know where to start with it. Again, so then we just end up with this same narrative as, we didn't hurt these people, so why are we accountable? It's that, which is just not good enough.
No, and I think that we're sort of that kind of culture that where we go, well, we've said sorry, so now we don't want to talk about it because we don't want to bring up how bad we really were. But why don't we educate our children on that and go, we were terrible, we did say sorry, it's probably not enough, but to educate that so that they understand what the Indigenous people have gone through, gives them that help and that empathy for what their elders and elders past have been through, and the hurt that they'll feel. Because if you don't know, you can't empathise with people. But if we educate and we go, it's not okay to make people feel like that and do what we did, that's changing that culture for the kids to go, we want to be loving and all welcoming, and it extends to all sorts of cultures, because we're so multicultural.
That's right. We forget that, don't we? Sometimes it's just about us, and you go, well, who's us? Like, how, and who are they? You're also a version of they as well.
Absolutely.
However you stand on the earth. But I think, that would be, I'd love to sort of extend my work a little bit in thinking about maybe having an experience up sort of, Cape York, up that area where I can sort of do my thing in that kind of culture and get some proper learning and understanding of where we've been and how we merge our cultures so much better and effectively too. Because, it's really a culture that's just been so decimated but has an opportunity to bring back as well.
Yep.
So you growing up, now you're, we were talking before in the break about your family and your parents, and you've got a sister and a niece and a nephew?
Two nephews.
Yep. Boys who are being raised well, no doubt.
Of course.
And also your partner, Paige. So growing up sort of identifying in your way, did you ever have any issues around, how you partnered with people, if that makes sense?
Yeah. Well, growing up, again, it's a little bit more out there and accepting these days of sexuality, and it's no longer a choice or not seen as a choice, and if it was a choice, I certainly wouldn't choose it, because the stigma and the difficulties that you come across when you come out, I suppose, is it's not pleasant. So if I had a choice, I certainly wouldn't choose that one. So
was it a difficult time for you?
Yeah, it wasn't easy. We're not overly religious, but come from that sort of the grandparents are a little bit more religious, and so that sort of background there. Now everything is fine, and sort of, I suppose, sometimes your parents think, oh, it might just be a bit of a phase or whatever that is, or just experimenting, looking out. So it's I think now it's as long as I'm happy, then that's okay. So it doesn't matter who you fall in love with, which is great. And my sister's great with her kids and the way that she raises them, and so as we've said, it sort of comes to that educating the kids around what is okay, and love is love, and you can fall in love with whoever it is, and you don't have to be labelled about that. And that's another thing, is that you might be in love with a woman and that doesn't work out, then might fall in love with a man, and that's okay. So so now everything's okay. Yeah.
But during that time, what was the main challenge that you like even playing sport, was that more accepting in that space?
Yeah, much more accepting in that space. It seems, I don't know, and team sport is quite inclusive, and, because you're all there for that one purpose. And even if you don't really get along with someone, when you cross the line, that one purpose is what you go for. So, you can come together. I think sometimes in the real world, when you work with people, you can't separate, I don't like them and I don't really want to work with them. And so those outcomes are never as good. But in sport, it's so intense and it's such a short period of time, and you've got whatever it is. Basketball, you've got your 40 minutes, you've got to get that done in that time. And the ultimate goal is to win, and you do whatever you can to do that. And so you can put all your differences aside because you know your role and you play your role and you do what you need to do. So it seems to be a lot more accepting in that sort of team environment, and you stick together, even if you don't necessarily get along with people. You've got that sort of cohesion and
camaraderie.
Camaraderie. It's a bit different to the real world.
Yeah, because I mean, and this is kind of generalising, but there's enough data, anecdotal data that I've collected over the years, but women in workplace tend not to be very kind to other women. I don't know if that's your experience, but I'm not entirely sure why that is, but it's good to hear that it doesn't probably extend that much into sport, that kind of some of those behaviours where women aren't that supportive of each other.
No, and I suppose as I said, there's people that you wouldn't catch up with a coffee outside.
Yeah.
But when it comes to getting the result you want, you find a way. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I can see what you mean by in the workplace.
So basketball was a big feature for a long time, and you played with the Dandenong Rangers, and they were pretty much top of the league, weren't they?
They were pretty good. Yeah. Up there.
When you were a kid, you mentioned dancing was a thing for you, but didn't work out. And then how many years did you spend in basketball?
So from 8 to how old was I? To 2017. So 92 to 2017, really? Yeah.
It's a long time. So did you have mentors that sort of kept you in the game, or?
I did, yeah. I did. I had I started playing in the WNBL at 16. So, I was looking up to all of these great players and understand. So I got to train with Penny Taylor, and she's one of, besides Lauren Jackson, one of the best players that Australia's produced. But then there's the others. There's all sorts of players that played for the Opals, Michelle Brogan and Emily McInerney, and the list goes on. And I've been able to play under them and watch them. But there's a couple of people that played at Dandenong, particularly Caitlin Merry, or was Caitlin Ryan back then, and her dad was the president of the club, and sadly he's passed away. So he was a big advocate for me, and at times when things weren't going so well, he was that one to go, just keep at it, you can, and you're good enough, just keep with it. And Caitlin was a big mentor for me through that time as well, because she played, I think, 198 games or something. Wow. So, and didn't quite get to the 200, and the way that they treated her wasn't great. So, to have that, she's been on that receiving end of not being treated too well. And so, I've called on her quite a bit for that stuff, and also her father was a good advocate there for me. So
can you describe a time that wasn't good for you?
Yeah, so playing for Dandenong, I was introduced every season as part of the furniture. She's part of the furniture because I was just always there. They always say loyalty doesn't pay. So, you want to be loyal, you stick around, you try and do the right thing by a club that's given you those opportunities, but then you become part of the furniture, and it's sort of just we'll sign. It almost felt a little bit like we'll sign her on because she's sort of the junior that's come through, and you need that one person. You can recruit from all over the place, but we'll keep one or two that have Dandenong juniors and coming through. This is what our program can do. You come and play at us, and we'll get you into the WNBL. So at times it felt a little bit like that, and I had some good seasons, and I had some seasons where I didn't play a lot of minutes at all. And I think it was the year that I was playing my 300th game, and I wasn't getting much court time, and I wasn't enjoying it, and I felt like it was almost like a hierarchy of whoever got paid more was getting played more, even though they may not have been the better person, the better player. So I actually went to my dad. He worked in Mordialloc at the time, and I drove around there, and I was in tears, and I just said, Dad, I don't think I can do this anymore. And I've never been at that point in my career. I've never been at the point of I won't finish off something that I've started. You know, you sign a contract, you say you're going to do something. I'm a big believer in, you know, I'll finish that off. Even if I'm not enjoying it or I don't like it, you find a way. I've said yes, I'll finish it off. And I'll do it to the best I can because I've made a commitment to you that I will do that. And I was at breaking point. I was hating it. And I thought, there was those pressures of, so mum and dad had driven me to basketball. They've, they put in a lot of time for me from 8 to 18 when I can start driving myself. They're sacrificing a lot to be at all my games, watch everything. And then they rarely miss a game. Wow. Even now, they rarely miss a game. And when I'm at that point, I feel like I'm letting them down as well to say, you've put all of this time and effort into me to get to where I want to be. And I just want to go, I can't do this anymore.
You're just copping out.
Yeah, in a way. And to Dad's credit, because I'm jumping around a bit, but even when I did play at Sandringham and they weren't that good in under 16s, and Dad was like, if you want to make it, you need to go to a team that's going to be in championship. He was driving me to Gels Road to go to my first training with Dandenong, and it was a fitness session, and we were going up through Keysborough, and he said, I hadn't said a word to him all morning, and he said, do you want me to turn the car around? And I said, yeah, I do. I don't want to go. And he goes, no, you need to go because you need to, sometimes.
What did he ask you then?
Well, it was just that sort of, because he knew that I hadn't, I was silent, I was in that mood. And and so there's times where as a parent, you've got to push your kids to do something that makes them feel uncomfortable, because there's times in life where you have to do that. And that idea of you've got to give it a go, and if you still don't like it, then absolutely, you don't have to go back, or whatever that looks like. But he knew he said it because he knew what I was thinking. So when I went to him, later on in my career, where I'm going, I cannot do this anymore, and I'm thinking I'm letting him down, and I can't do this. And he said, it's okay. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. But let's talk it through. So like to have my dad say that to me it was almost like everything, just that weight of the world was just off my shoulders, and everything was okay. Not because Dad said it was okay, but that understanding that I'm not letting him down, and all of that, you kind of
that expectation.
That expectation, and that, as we were saying before, you want to call in sick because you're not well, but you feel like you're going to let people down. It's that all just lifted, and it was, if I'm not happy, why am I doing something that makes me so unhappy that
So what did you do?
Well, I ended up playing it out, but I had a chat with the coach, and I said, can I have a chat with you? And no one likes to have those discussions. Yeah. And I just had a discussion of, I think I can give you more than what you are allowing me to do. Yep. And I'd like that opportunity, was essentially what I said. And I said, it feels like I'm being pushed down here because I don't get paid as much, but I think I can give more than what some of the players are giving with poor form at the moment. And I'd like that opportunity. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But, and it did change a little bit, but it made me feel better that I've got it off my chest. I've said what I need to say. I played out the season, but that was probably, sort of that turning point for me in terms of that this isn't necessarily the love that I had for basketball had gone, and I was doing it because it was my almost like an identity for me.
Yeah.
And that was probably another realization of, if I stop doing this, who am I and what do I do? I'm a basketballer. Yes, I work full time, but that's not my passion. This is sport is what I do, and that's how I identify.
But it's like your dad gave you that time and space for you to figure it out yourself.
Yeah.
And that clarity where, you know, you could imagine what was going to come next.
Yeah.
Sort of had this imagination when I was writing the show last night. How do you go from this round ball with dimples all over it to a football, shaped football?
Well, that's another thing. 'Cause I've always had a footy. I've always, I used to sleep with my football. I love football. Yeah.
Who do you barrack for?
Melbourne. Big Melbourne fan.
Yeah.
Decked out in the Melbourne kit when I was little, and my grandparents were Melbourne, dad's Melbourne, mum's Melbourne. So it's there, and we'd go every week. Yeah. So, I've always loved football. And then when there was, I was out one night and some girls came up and said, "Oh, you're tall, you should play football." Mm-hmm. And they wouldn't leave me alone. So
I thought that was a basketball thing. You were told
I know. But, so they wouldn't leave me alone, and I said, "Oh, if I say yes, will you leave me alone?"
Yeah.
They're like, "Yep." So, I gave them my number and I said, "Thanks," and I'm off.
Where were the girls from?
Scoresby.
Right.
Nowhere near me. And I said, "It's too far away. I can't. I wouldn't do it." But I thought if I just give them my number, they'll forget about it, and it's just a bit of a whatever at night. And the next day, I got a text message saying, you should come down. So, and I thought, maybe I will. So, went down and played a couple of seasons there, and then we went to Knox.
Oh, that was fast from not doing it. Then you just
I know. But that's one of those things where
what attracted you there? Was it the people or the?
Oh, just they asked me to play, so I thought, have a kick. I don't think there was anything around my area, and I thought, why not just give it a crack and see what it entails, and then when the whispers of AFLW started to come in, which wasn't meant to be till 2020, but then they pulled it forward to 2017. So that was that time where, again, playing in just local league, and I thought, if I wanted to sort of be seen, then maybe I'll move to a successful VFL team. So I went to Diamond Creek, knew one or two people there, so popped myself over to Diamond Creek. Again, nowhere near me. It's a good hour and a bit.
Long drive.
But have made some great friendships with those girls there, and quite a few of them got drafted in that first year at a few teams. So, but it's sort of, I was doing it because I'd lost the love for basketball. So, it reinvigorated that love for sport again. Yeah. To be playing a different sport. It was, although I followed it my whole life, there was this big period and chunk of time that I hadn't really learnt the game of football in terms of being coached. So it's that new, exciting, I know basketball like the back of my hand, but football is I'm still learning so much. So, and I love that. And it just, you can see that I can see the improvement in my game and my understanding of the game.
How often do you train?
It's three days or 3 nights a week on track, and then you got to fit in your gym and.
Oh wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
No wonder you look so fit.
Yeah,
that's it, people. You want to get fit, play football. Is there anything that you would change about your trajectory, like between say 8 and now?
I don't think so. I think I've learnt. I could probably say, oh, maybe I should have moved clubs when I wasn't getting played as much. But I think that resilience, I've learnt a lot from those times, and I've made friendships and as I said, mentors and drawn off people that you probably wouldn't get if I did change that trajectory. Yeah. And I think back now, and there's been some horrible times in life, but you go, would I change that? I don't think so, because what's come out of it is is so great that perhaps if I didn't go through that dark time, then I wouldn't have what I have now.
Because what was it like when Carlton didn't re-sign you?
It was horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a horrible feeling for someone to say, we don't want you anymore.
Yeah.
And as we've said before, I see why men in the AFL can have such, your life is just, for them, it's just stopped. That's it. And when you believe that you've still got something to give, and they actually asked me to retire. And to me, I'm not, yes, I'm old, but I don't feel like I'm old. And I think with women, age is just a number. I think for us, we peak later on in life than men. And I think our bodies hold up a little bit better than men's do in terms of elite sport. So I it's a hard pill to swallow that someone doesn't want you, and you always would love to go out.
Is
on
that
your
because
own terms.
because you're in the ruck, aren't you? But did they find someone better or?
Well, they had, and I was sort of playing second fiddle to the other ruck. She's younger and she's great, and has been there from day dot two, and she's been making All Australians, and I get that, but the dynamic that we had was quite good because we're two very different styles of how we play, and I'm a little bit more defensive and she was a bit more offensive. I thought we worked quite well together, but they did end up playing me in different positions. The idea that I never missed a game there, they found a spot for me, so I was back and forward, could be quite versatile, and then to say we don't want you anymore it's really difficult, and so there was a time where, and you start to second guess yourself, well, am I good enough? Do I still have that to give, or are they right and I'm wrong? And I don't know. But then with Collingwood, and it worked out really well because their ruck retired, so they needed that person to step in, but also not someone young and new, and they needed that experience to come in. So it was a good fit, and it worked well for me, and I feel like I've been there a lot longer than a year. They were very welcoming. And
okay, so how would you compare the two teams?
It's hard to compare. It's, you kind of get you get in amongst the nitty gritty when you've been there for 5 years at Carlton, and then you step into a new club and everything's new and exciting, and so you don't get sucked into the bad parts of it because I don't know if you don't want to see it, or you're so open-minded to it all. So there's pros and cons, and the way that there's some great things that Collingwood did that Carlton maybe didn't do, but there were some great things that Carlton did that Collingwood could probably learn from. So that's another good thing where you go across, and so I've given them that feedback of this is great, this is something that Carlton did really well that you could probably look at pulling in. And that's another thing with AFLW is that every club runs completely differently because of the funding that they get and how they wish to use that. And so it's not a blanket rule across. I'm sure it's the same with the men, but it's probably a little bit more uniform across the men's because they're a full-time competition. But with us, we're so part-time that how they utilise their staff is completely different.
So in terms of the attachment, and funding for the club, is that attached to the bigger club?
It is. But part of it, so the AFL, I think, allows a certain amount of money and, all those salary caps and things like that. So, and I guess to them as well, what they wish to spend out of their own caps as well, their own money that they get in would differ across. And I know with Adelaide in their first or second year, I think by the time they came around, they started to make money because they were the only club in South Australia and that was quite successful. They ended up, making money, whereas no other AFLW club had done that because we've got so much to compete with. But also, when you're winning, it creates,
Do you think the crowds are predominantly women or a good mixture?
It's a reasonable mixture. You see, I think what we see is a lot of families with young girls. But you see a lot of young boys watching as well. But it's dads, but they love it. And and it's so good. I don't know. I like that. And you see some young boys there because there's people that just love football.
Yeah.
And that's another reason why I think they put us not so much with the men, because it allows people, it extends football for the year.
Yeah.
And those people that just love their club, they come and watch.
Yeah.
You know, they love it. And so it's quite a mix, but it's the fans are really, it's almost like a community because we play at those community grounds, and I think people love coming back there to play. You know, we're playing at the grounds that the men used to play at when it was VFL, and you know, coming into AFL, and it brings football back to the community. You know, we play in Collingwood and Carlton play in Carlton, and you know, so it's.
Do you have aspirations to play with Melbourne?
Oh,
you can't really say that on air, can you? Sorry, Collingwood.
Yeah, it's. I probably did at the beginning, but now I'm you know, I'm just happy to be playing, and I feel that, you know, I did love Carlton as a club. I now have this connection to Collingwood, and because it's just a matter of they make me feel like that. And when I play against Melbourne, I want to win. So, you know, but when I was delisted and I had no affiliation, then I was drawn straight back to Melbourne.
Yeah,
so, it's funny.
So what happens when you play against Carlton?
Oh, you just get the nerves. I get the nerves, and all I want is to play really well. So that's it. I just want to go
show them.
I can. I still can. So that's it. Yeah.
It's it must be. What's it like, sort of running out onto the ground? Is it nerve-wracking?
Yeah, it is. And I get quite nervous before games these days. And I sit there and I go, am I too old for this, to put myself under this? And it's sort of a bit of a choice to put myself under this pressure and to need to play. But then once you're out there, it all goes away. Yeah. And I love it. And it just, and you go, no, this is why I play, because, and it's that team thing. I could never do an individual sport. I love the team.
The team,
yeah. That's what makes me go harder and push more. Yeah. I wouldn't do anything if.
So do you get any television coverage when you're playing?
Yeah, we do. Yeah. So
does that add to the nerves when you know there are cameras on?
Not so much. I don't really think about that anymore. But yeah, it's just
because is it on KO Sport or something?
It's on Channel 7 as well, and Foxtel. Yeah. So they cover all of it. And KO. So it was probably, I think, when basketball was on, and it was sort of, you know, you were game of the week, that put the pressure on you to be, because that's the only time people can watch, and so you better be doing well. Whereas we're on, you can find us, and we're live streamed as well through the app for the AFLW. So it's all, and the live stream is the same as what's on Channel 7 or Foxtel. So
Simon Madden was saying the other day, you know, back in the day they would have match of the day. Yeah. Only like one game, and bits of that game were televised.
Highlights,
Not even, you would never get to see the whole match, and now you can watch anyone, which is great, I guess. We were supposed to have a break about 10 minutes ago, and I'm thinking about, do we just push on until 11:30, because we are wrapping up early today, because we're going to be broadcasting the Box Hill Hawks and Richmond match, which I think kicks off at 12 o'clock, but there's a bit of pre-game stuff, of course, I guess, before that. So maybe we will go for the next special guest song request. Here's your cryptic clue. I don't know if you're going to get this one. Sherilyn Sarkison. Sherilyn Sarkison. Think of the first name.
Not sure.
Yeah, that's the one. That's her real name.
Is it?
Yeah.
Great.
Cheryl.
I like Cher.
So this one, I found someone. What does that mean to you?
Oh, this one it's a sort of a breakup song, but I got my dog. I bought a dog, a little puppy, Albert. He's a schnoodle. And when I was on my own, and the love that I have for him is what I feel when I listen to this song. And I used to pick him up and dance around the kitchen with him, because he was my someone. I found someone.
Oh, wow.
He was my someone. And whenever I hear the song, I think of him and I pick him up, and he's my He's my little rock.
Oh, that is. How old is he now?
He's 4.5. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Well, what a dedication. Is he listening in?
I hope so. He should be.
So what's his name?
Albert.
Albert. This is for you, Albert. I Found Someone by Cheryl. Don't go away. You're listening to 94.1 FM. It's 3WBC. Welcome back. The time is 14 minutes past 11 and you're listening to 94.1 FM, 3WBC with Rae Bonney and AFL women's superstar Alison Downie. These days she wears number 30 for Collingwood, and you also wore number 30 for Carlton. Is that a thing, 30?
That was just that was my number that I played with when I played for Scoresby. So I'm number 12 in basketball.
Yep.
And then, I had 30. And then when we were at Carlton, you wrote down what numbers you wanted. And obviously everyone, they filtered through for your choice. 30 was my second choice. So I got that 12 as my number one. But just you try and get everyone a number that they are comfortable with. So, and it was free at Collingwood. So kept it.
Oh, fantastic. Good number. 32 is the best. Tim Watson. Tim Watson, number 32. In the break, we had a visit from our president, Phil Edwards, who unscrambled a message that he sent to me last night where he said I had to finish up at 11:30 today because of the VFL match between Box Hill Hawks and Richmond. But he's come to say that I can continue. So what will happen at 11:30, you can continue listening to the football, or you can switch to live streaming off the website. So if you just go to www.3wbc.com.au, probably, I don't know. Anyway, you just push on the live streaming there and you can continue listening to Alison and I chew the fat about footy, about WorkSafe, OH&S, WHS, whatever it is these days. I think it's still OH&S here in Victoria.
It is.
It's the most stupid system in the world, isn't it? You know, I always wonder what it's like for national companies that who have facilities in all states. Like, how does that work?
It'd be a nightmare.
Yeah.
They'd have to,
adopt one or the other.
Yeah. I think we're the only state now that's still under that OH&S Act.
Yeah.
And everyone else is...
WH.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
You also said in the break that because we forgot to really cover Celine because of the lengthy unscrambling of the cryptic clue, you were telling me what that Celine Dion song means to you.
Yeah, so that's my all-time favourite song. And I was saying to you that was when you're a kid and you get music given to you in your Christmas stocking, and it shapes the music that you listen to moving forward. And I got the Colour of My Love cassette tape, Celine Dion. So it was 93, I think it was.
Who gave that to you?
My mum's best friend. So she's my sister's godmother. So my mum's best friend gave me Celine Dion, and she gave my sister Silverchair Frog Stomp. So quite different.
Why? Did she get it out of the bargain bin or something?
I'm not sure. But that was the gift that I got. And it has shaped the way that I listen to music. And it's the complete opposite to what my sister listens to. And I think it's sort of the two pathways. But that song, that was number 2 on the cassette. And that got such a workout, the rewind, the stop, the play. I don't know what it is. It's that part where she's like, no. That's just my favourite thing. And so I love ballads now. And you can see I pick Cher and love song and ballads is my thing now. Yeah. And I reckon that was the turning point of what shapes your music genre.
And I was surprised. I mean, I'm not a really judgy person, but it wasn't what I expected from you.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in that tone. It wasn't what I expected from you, but it's I love this show because over the many years I've been having it, I've always got the guests to pick their songs, and my youngest son Rory always plays this game with me when my Apple Music is on. He'll say, "Whose song is this?" and I will remember whose it was, and most of the time why.
There you go.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah.
sometimes think, oh, why do you have to choose that song? I don't want that on my Apple iTunes, but I am very, very ethical in the way that we play music here. So I always buy the music because we have to support our artists, and certainly don't agree with not. So now we were just talking about Albert, and it sort of just prompted me, and I mentioned to you that dogs have been, or animals have been, quite prominent in my life recently because so many people I know have lost pets. And it's so devastating. We really underrate the importance of pets, and you just described Albert, and how that song that we just played is for him, and that deep love that you have. And I just wanted to give a shout out to my friend Tiffany Cook, who was actually on the show last month. And Tiffany runs a very amazingly successful podcast called Roll with the Punches, and she's a boxer. And her dog Coach is very much part of her life and part of her social media identity as well. And Coach is a beautiful, beautiful dog who really unfortunately passed away just a couple of weeks ago, and consequently broke Tiff's heart. And I know she's still recovering from that. Probably will never recover, actually, from losing Coach. So Tiff, if you're listening, all the love to you. And Coach is out there somewhere looking in. So is Albert is it, you said he's a schnoodle?
Schnoodle, yeah. Schnauzer cross poodle.
Ah.
Yeah, he's very cute.
They are great. I got my first, I had dogs, when I was growing up, but they weren't mine. I got my first dog 3.5 years ago, Vincent, and he's a French bulldog.
Cute.
So after the show, I'm going to grab Vincent. We're driving down to Mentone Dog Beach to meet another girlfriend who's just acquired a dog. So we're going to go for a little walk. He loves it down there.
I love that. So we adopted another dog 6 months ago. So little Minnie, she's, who knows what she is. Terrier cross poodle. But yeah, so we've got Albert and Minnie now. But Minnie's settled in well, and Albert loves it. Yeah.
How do you go looking after two dogs, playing footy and working full time?
Yeah, it's not easy, but Paige takes a good brunt of that as well. She's still working from home most of the time, so I think it's a bit of a love-hate relationship there, though, because they nudge. There comes a time when they get that boredom, and the nudge comes in, and they get restless. So she's got to take them out. But at the same time, I think I miss when I go into the office now. I miss being at home with them. So it's.
Yeah.
I feel like she does do a lot with them, and I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah. Now Paige is she's a doctor of philosophy,
dietetics. Yeah.
And at which university?
Deakin.
Yeah. At Deakin. How fortuitous. That must be very handy, in terms of training. Does she interact much with your diet?
Not a huge amount, but I will call on her for advice. I also watch. So if she eats chocolate, I go, well, I can eat chocolate because she's a dietitian, and that's okay. So, my weakness is snakes, lollies. Yeah. So when she buys me a packet, then I'll go, well, it's okay for me to eat them because she's a dietitian. So
I'm always curious about jelly confectionery, that people will specifically like snakes, or they'll like jelly babies, but they're the same stuff in a different shape. So it has to be snakes?
Pretty much, yeah. It's a bag of snakes. I don't know. Maybe it's because they're longer. Yeah. I feel like I'm getting more out of them than just the little jelly babies. Yeah.
It's funny, isn't it? Our preferences. Now, I just also wanted to mention that if any of our discussions today for our audience, or for you as well, Al, bring up any uncomfortable feelings, please remember help is there. So a few options for support are Lifeline, 131114. Suicide callback service is 1300 659 467, and emergency services is 000. So just like to mention that because, even though we're chatting on air and it's, it's a safe space here, sometimes people can be triggered, when we're talking about, mental health topics especially. So just reminder for that. So I was going to ask you also about your sister. So she's got 2 children, your nephews. What's it like being an auntie?
It's great. It's because I don't have kids myself, and probably won't have kids. So they're like my idea of children, and I can give them back when they're when I've had enough. But it's nice to have I don't know, Auntie Al. So and they live quite nearby. They've just actually moved into my parents because they're knocking down their house and rebuilding. So now they're literally around the corner. So it's quite nice to have them around and watch them grow. And the eldest is now they turn into little men. And what they absorb, it's amazing. What they hear and what they tell you and how they interact from when they're little kids to now. So it's nice to be a part of their life and a big part of their life. And I'd like to be that auntie that when they're a bit older and they've gone out and they don't want to tell mum and dad that they've done something, that they can call Auntie Al and I'll come and pick them up at 2 a.m. and bring them home and we'll work out a way to soften the blow to mum and dad in the morning. So, it's, I guess because I don't have my own kids, it's nice to...
Apart from your dogs.
Of course. Well, they are. They are just like my children. It's nice to be a part of their lives and
it's such an important role, being an auntie or a grandparent or, in my space we see a lot of parental alienation where dads especially are alienated from their children. And it's not just the dads, it'll be then the grandparents and the aunties as well that also are disconnected. And, we see such value in, tribes raising children, whilst parents, have the main role in raising, we forget that there's a whole other community around that add that value or different kind of approach. Like, as you said, you want to be the auntie that picks up the pieces. Did you have one of those people growing up?
No, not really. No. And, and that, I suppose that's another thing is that I can be that auntie because my aunties, they have their own kids and we were all my cousins around similar ages. So, they didn't live close. So, I don't know. I want them to have that probably... Mind you, I was so good, I didn't need that.
I was going to say, like, given that you were always involved in sport, you wouldn't have had time to mess up too much?
No, I didn't. And mum and dad were pretty good. Dad was always, if you need help, call me. Yeah. He was always there to do that. So, and you'd get the text if I hadn't come home at the time I was going to come home. Is everything okay? Do you need help? So I had that support, I suppose, in mum and dad. And I know that my sister and her husband would be the same. But I can just see there's the younger one has a bit of cheekiness to him. So I can imagine he'll push the boundaries a little bit. But, I just, if I'm there for them, it's a good thing.
Did your sister continue on with the dancing?
She did. Yeah, she did. She did a bit of dancing and then she was a bit of a swimmer as well through school. But yeah.
So do the boys, are they interested in football on your behalf?
They're not, which is a bit, they're not. One of them's interested in soccer now. Yeah. Their dad he played soccer when he was younger. And cricket. They like cricket. So,
the most boring game on earth.
It's I'm sure that the Saturday morning cricket's all right, but when it becomes the whole day,
I always said to my kids, play anything, just not cricket. Yeah, it will not be a cricket.
Takes up a lot of your time. So, but as my sister's good with, integrating them into give it a crack. If you like it, you like it. So let's try all these different things. So they do a lot, and they try a lot of different things. But they are Collingwood supporters, so now it's a lot easier for them to be wearing my Collingwood jumper than it was to get them in a Carlton jumper. So at least they support me and they'll watch it. They're happy to watch it.
That's it's such a great game. Growing up, Mad Essendon, I would go to every single match, painted, the whole thing. And then as I got older, when football became more commercial, I'm still very wedded to Tim Watson. He just doesn't know it. Well, he actually does. He's been on the show as well, which is he's a wonderful man. Anyway, my daughter, she's crazy Collingwood. So she's 27 now, but for her whole life, she goes to most matches still. But, being at the football the other night, just seeing the amount of families there, and it was a late match. It was so good, so many children and their parents and, just the camaraderie. There was no ill behaviour, people barracking really, really loudly and enthusiastically, but so respectfully at the same time. Yeah. I thought, wow, it's, I just love that in footy because it does bring families together where, they might not be able to have a common interest doing something. Even our local netball and football clubs, how they've, over the past years merged, that netball will play at the same time as footy at the same venue with that purpose of bringing families together. Yeah. I did a lot of Beyond Blue speaking at those events. They always have ladies' days like the one that we were at. But yeah, a really, really good initiative, I think. Also, families aren't on the road. They're not travelling between, games with the kids. They can stay together.
Yeah.
So it's a really good thing. So in terms of the future, and it's probably hard to talk about because you've just changed jobs, so that's your next near future thing. But in terms of sport, do you sort of have an idea of how far you'll take it, or what you want to do with it when you're not playing?
I haven't. I have thought about it, but I haven't made that decision of what I'd like to do. And it's one of those things, that people talk about. Well, would you coach? Would you do?
Oh, Alison, I've just looked at the time. Okay. It's 11:30. I've got to push buttons. Okay, everyone, now's the time. If you're listening in, pop up onto the 3WB website and stream live. I'm going to turn something off and turn something on and hope it works.
Support of our sponsors:
Budget Car and Truck Rental,
Tobin Brothers Funerals,
Birdie's Mini Golf and Sports Bar,
L&P Antiques and Collectibles,
Aaliyah Framing,
Piranha Foods,
M&R Davids Constructions,
Dragon City Tattoos,
Buffalo Sports,
and the Blackburn Hotel. Thank you for your ongoing support of 94.1 FM 3WBC and 3WBC Football.
This is Sunday afternoon VFL football on 94.1 FM 3WBC.
.1 FM 3WBC. Welcome to VFL Football for our game between Box Hill and Richmond, live from the Box Hill City Oval. Thanks to Rae Bonney. Unfortunately, her program on our radio airways finished a bit early today, but if you'd like to continue listening to the program, you can do so via the 3WBC website, 3wbc.org.au. Click on the listen button and there is a second stream option there to continue listening to Rae's program, or of course the footy's available on your airwaves and on our main stream. We're going to head over to the Box Hill City Oval now and welcome to our coverage today and our pre-match host, Fletch Fraser. G'day, Fletch.
Hello, Phil. It's great to be here from the Box Hill City Oval for this round 8 clash between Box Hill and Richmond. We're joined in the commentary box by the Box Hill Hawks captain, Hugh Beasley. Hello, Hugh. It's great to have you here. How are you today?
Yeah, good, thanks. Yeah, it's exciting. The sun's out. Wind's playing a little bit of a part, but yeah, really exciting to see what the day holds.
Now, of course, you're out with a hamstring injury. How much longer do you expect to miss with that injury?
Yeah, it's a bit frustrating, but hopefully it's 4 all up. So I've got a bye next week and then hopefully back for Gold Coast and Gold Coast. So might get a tan up there.
It will be your first time as a team playing up on the Gold Coast against the Gold Coast Suns. How do you look ahead to that game?
Yeah, I suppose it's really exciting that we get to get all together and travel and just bond, really. It's just another game, but we have to do it elsewhere, interstate.
Welcome, Hugh. I just want to ask you a little question about one of your boys that hasn't been at the club very long, I'm getting the hyphens mixed up. David Brinker-Ritchie. ruckman. He's come on the scene pretty late, but he's held his own. He's been very impressive, I thought.
Absolutely, and last week he was really impressive. He's a big 18-year-old boy, isn't he? I don't like wrestling him at all or training. So, no, he's a great kid. He's quiet. He's come into our fold and into our club and just, fit the mould perfectly. He's tough. And he knows his role. So he's really exciting.
Yeah, he looks like one out of the bag, that's for sure. The other one I want to ask you about today, Mason DeWitt out. There's a bit of a shocker. On our team sheet, he's out. I don't know if that's right, but yeah, bit of a shock.
Yeah, it's interesting. With these aligned clubs, you've always got to shuffle the magnets a fair bit depending on what Hawthorn's doing. So Mace knows that he's in some great form, and we love Mace and what he brings to our club. So it's a purely structural thing, and the weight of numbers fell to Hawthorn's side. So Mace will get an opportunity in a couple of weeks' time, so he knows that, and we're excited to have him back very soon.
Stuart Horner is captain today and Fergus Green last week. Is it rewarding for you watching other players step up into more senior leadership positions while you can't play and watching them lead the team?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got such a tight-knit group as a leadership group that you could throw the keys to anyone and it wouldn't change too much on game day. So Ferg did a great job last week. He was pretty happy with almost 100 points, so he was ready to get rid of it. And Stu's ready to take on a real big challenge today against the Tigers. But Stu could lead the boys, and it wouldn't change too much. I think he's really excited for the opportunity.
That's great. And Richmond today, they've got 18 AFL listed players. For some of your younger players today, like Jackson Callow and even Brinker Ritchie, do you think they're going to be apprehensive going against a more senior side today?
No, I don't think so. I think they look at it and lick their lips a little bit to take it up to some of these guys that have played senior footy and a fair bit of senior footy. 18 AFL boys is a fair number in VFL these days, and we're really excited for the opportunity, and our young guys don't really get too phased about that, and they just want to take it up to them and show that they can prove and match it against the best.
I'm a bit upset today. I thought we might have been playing for the Hugh Beasley Cup if you were out there, but unfortunately not out there, Richmond being your old side. But just a question from the Richmond perspective, are there any boys, I guess you probably see the team list, who are still there from when you were there, or it's been a pretty... Because we're just going through the list before we went on air, and we're going through it, and there's a lot of AFL listed, not many young. I know Street's a captain, but there's not a lot of VFL listed boys. Yeah, with the VFL dynamic, it changes over so much, and I've been obviously out of there a couple of years now, but there's definitely some of the AFL listed boys that I played with and saw get drafted and grow, and now they're pretty big boys and playing pretty good footy. And there's a couple of VFL boys like Angus Hicks and Lockie Street that I played a lot of footy with, and they're ripping fellas. So it's always a little bit conflicting. You meet them and you see them out there, you have a kick with them before the game, and you love them, but then when it turns to game day, something flicks in the head and you switch pretty quickly.
Now, you mentioned the conditions out there earlier. It's a bit windy, as we can see by the gazebos over there. What do you think the team will need to do to sort of adapt to these windy conditions today, Hugh?
Yeah, well, Richmond's pressure is always elite. We know that's what they do. So I think it's just taking what the game gives us. We might take a bit of territory early, just release the pressure. And as the game goes on, I think it'll open up as the speed comes out of it. But yeah, there is probably a bit of a breeze, maybe 2 or 3 goals, I reckon, heading towards the scoreboard. And then, we're really excited we've got our structures in place, ready to roll to whatever Richmond throw at us. I think we're ready to go.
Really looking forward to the game. One question from me as well. We asked a couple of the boys. I know that the history of the Box Hill Footy Club is pretty important, and the boys rocked out in the old 2001 Premiership jumper a few weeks ago. Is there, as a captain of the club, do you take a bit of an interest in the history of the club and little things like that? I guess a lot of these younger boys probably don't know much of the history of Box Hill Footy Club, I guess.
Nah, and that's where David Banfield comes in massively. He's awesome with that kind of stuff. So we got told about the history and the heritage of that jumper, and they played a bit of the clips from that Premiership year. And then you've also got people like Chance Bateman writing on the Instagram and the socials saying, where can I get my hands on them? So it's awesome to see like past players and even current players connecting and acknowledging the history and where Box Hill have come, and for the young guys learning about our great club.
What are you hoping for the rest of the season? You've got today against Richmond, and then you've got a bye, and you can all have a rest and sort of reset, and then Gold Coast, obviously, completely different ball game because you're up in different conditions. What's the aim for the club just as a progression standpoint?
Yeah, well, we're actually building pretty well, so we're starting to get our ball movement where we want, and it takes a little while to gel with the AFL boys, and every week you see across the VFL platform that every team's a little bit different. So one week they might be really strong, depending on COVID or health protocols, and then the next week they might be a little bit weaker, depending on what's happening with injuries and all that. So you never really know what you're going to get week in, week out with the VFL platform. But we're just hoping to consistently improve step by step and build a great game plan, ready to hopefully get into finals and then reset and go from there.
What do the boys usually do in a bye round, and what do you still train, or do you just sort of reset and I guess relax and focus to the week after that?
Yeah, it's a great question, Fletch, and I think it changes person to person, depending on their personality really. Some switch off from footy and go camping and turn their phone off and don't think about footy at all. And then some of our VFL boys will go back to their local clubs and play there and support their community club. There'll be a couple of guys coming back from injury that will need to do a body of work and a training session on that weekend as well. So it's actually coming a really good time for us when the ledger is 3-3 for us, and then we'll see what happens today. But it's a really good opportunity, almost middle of the year to reset and then think about our back half of the year.
Any more questions?
Yeah, I've just got one quick one as well. The Hawthorn women today drawing. And we've noticed a couple of times they'll always stand and do a guard for when you boys come out and do your warm-up. What's that like for the mentality of the club and having that great support from the women's side? Yeah,
the women are awesome, and we cross over sometimes in training or recovery, and it's good to see them that they've drawn and taken up to the top of the team, or top of the table clash really. So it was actually a pretty good game, and the skills were really pure despite the wind. But yeah, it's great running out, and the girls have a game before us and they stay around and support us. So it's awesome that we've got that culture. We obviously get here 2 hours early and we try and get out and watch them too, and vice versa. So we've got a great relationship with the women's team, and it's great to see that they're doing really well.
All the very best today from a team perspective, and thanks for joining us on 3WBC Football, Hugh.
No, I really appreciate it. Thanks and good luck with the call.
Thanks Hugh. Appreciate that. Thanks for joining us.
So the Box Hill Hawks captain Hugh Beasley joining us on 94.1 FM 3WBC VFL football, and it was great to talk to Hugh about what's sort of going on in this football club and at the ground today, and it was great to talk to him. But before we continue any further, I'm Fletch Fraser, your broadcast host. I'll also be your lead caller today. I'm joined by Brad Mullen, who will be the second caller. We'll have Peter Louse joining us a little bit later, and he'll be doing special comments and stats. And Gemma Hooper is our boundary rider as well, so it's great to have Brad and Gemma and Loushy as well, and thanks to Phil in the studio as well. It'll be a great game of footy today, won't it?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It's amazing conditions. Sun is out. There's heaps of people here. There's an awesome crowd building. Jeff Kennett's here as well, supporting both the women's earlier and our VFL men's today. So it should hopefully be a really good game. And how great is Hugh Beasley? He's such a genuinely nice bloke.
I like Hugh. He's very well spoken. He's very respectful. I can see why he got the captaincy. I guess he'd would have got the respect of his peers pretty quickly. And yeah, I think it's been maybe 3 years or maybe 3 since he switched over from Richmond. So he's definitely had an impact in such a short period of time. And I forgot to ask him, but I did ask him a few weeks ago, actually, Hugh, that when he played in one of the grand finals, I think it might have been 2019 or something around there. He's an actual school teacher, and
oh wow!
All these kids come down and they made a banner and they called Hugh Beasley Fan Club, and they stood like in one of the forward pockets. So he's got a good following, young Hugh. So very impressive young man, that's for sure.
Definitely. I do know his sponsors, LP Antiques and Collectibles, who is also one of our radio broadcast sponsors today. I'm very proud to be his player sponsor. And just the general sense that he's so happy to see players like Fergus Green and Stu Horner step up and help lead the team. And him saying anyone could take the keys and run the show is an amazing sort of viewpoint for Box Hill.
It's a good culture when you can do that. I mean, I mean, you go back in time and, the skipper was always just the one leader. I guess when now it's a leadership group, and Stewie Horner, and I mean, Damien Mercedes, was a former captain, but I'm sure he still has a bit of leadership figure out there. So they've got a few good leaders, and I mean, you look at the Hawthorn list, and you've got guys like Howe who've been around for a little bit of time now. He's probably a bit of a leader, but not so to speak in terms of just shows his leadership on the field as a player. But there's a lot of experience out there, and I mean, it's much needed when you got young guys like David Brinker-Ritchie who come in at just 18 and held their own. So you got to, it's very important, I think. So yeah, well done to the leadership group at Box Hill for being able to be pretty adaptable this year.
Definitely, we're in for a great day today here at Box Hill City Oval against Richmond. Their side is quite a senior side today. They've got 18 AFL listed players. But how do you think the game's going to go, Brad?
That's a good question, Gemma. As I was coming here, I was thinking Box Hill might have probably got the win, but after seeing the team list and being a bit blown away of the depth and the quality on that list, complemented with a few young VFL listed players like Lockie Street, who's a 2019 VFL Premiership player, they've got a pretty good list. So I'm actually probably going to have to go for Richmond. I think they're the ones that are going to get the win, just purely off that list. And I think that's probably a bit probably I know not fair on the Box Hill boys, but when you see guys like Robbie Tarrant and you got Shane Edwards, I think maybe a 3-time. Shane Edwards not playing.
He's not playing. He was on the team sheet this morning, but because he was the medical sub yesterday, he's no longer playing. And Jack Sexton and Nick Gwinney also won't be playing for Richmond. They've still got 17 AFL listed players, which when you think about it is a huge number.
It's huge. I mean, they just least 5 VFL listed players. So, yeah, I'm probably going to tip Richmond by about 20 points, I reckon.
Yeah, I think that will most likely be the case. We do know the Box Hill is a capable side. Last week was evidence of that with their amazing win at Windy Hill, but I think today will go Richmond's way. And as Fletch mentioned to me before we went to air, Hugo Ralph-Smith is returning today as well after being injured, and he's obviously a very talented player. So it'll be interesting to see how he plays after his injury.
One of my favourite names, Hugo Ralph-Smith. Very, very elegant name. So I'm excited to see Hugo back. You don't see the name Hugo very much anymore. Maybe it might turn into a thing. We see a few boys named Hugo moving on.
Potentially.
He's got a great mullet as well. I've just got to put that out there. The long, luscious locks on his head of hair. We've seen the return of the mullet in recent years, and it's great to see it back, but we've got a huge game today, and of course, Box Hill are currently 3-3 in 2022, Richmond are 4-2, so it'll be a great game of footy today at Box Hill.
Who are you tipping, Fletch?
I think Richmond will win by 4 goals. I think that if they kick towards the scoreboard end where the breeze is going in this first quarter, given that they've got a large number of AFL listed players, I think they'll be too strong for Box Hill.
That's a fair assessment. Fletcher was going to mention, we've got a lunch on nearby, and looks like it's a capacity crowd again, Gemma.
It does. I think the luncheon will be pretty much full today. I do know that they had Sam Mitchell speaking at the luncheon, which I'm sure a lot of diehard Box Hill supporters will be wanting to go. Sam Mitchell, of course, did play for Box Hill and win a premiership with Box Hill. He was a captain at one stage. So he's got a lot of history here at this club too. So I'm sure his interview with Paul Hooper will be a standout for the luncheon. And we've got a great crowd that have stuck around after the women's game here between Essendon and Hawthorn. I reckon we'll easily get 700 people here watching the game.
Easily, I reckon. Especially with the amount of people still here, and we've still got another probably 20-odd minutes until... I think a lot of people will come late today, being a pretty early start. So... yeah, I reckon we'll easily get the 700. Hopefully we've got some entertainment again today as well. Last week, I think that got the crowd interested. We had a bit of the Chinese dragons on the ground. So it's good that Box Hill are trying different things to get the community involved. I think that's a real positive. And I think that's one thing that I guess all the VFL clubs have got to do. They've got to try things, and if they don't work to get crowds in, well, at least they try. But everything's worth a try, I think, especially at VFL level.
Definitely, and we do know with having the women's games as well, we see a lot of supporters come out and watch them, which is amazing, and I really urge anyone who is coming to the VFL men's to come a little bit earlier or stay a bit later, watch the women play as well, because we do see some really talented players with Hawthorn too, and we often see that we've got the double headers, so get around all aspects of the comp and really show your support, because it's a great opportunity to see more of the game that we all love.
Exactly. I was a bit surprised that I thought they might have went in reverse. I thought they might have started the women's game after the men's, but it's paid off because there's a huge crowd here for the women's game. So, I mean, 9:30 on a Sunday, most people say, oh, it's a bit of a tricky time, but it just proved today that you could probably start them at 8 a.m. and people will still turn up. So, yeah.
Definitely. Looking at the ladder in a points perspective, we've got 5 teams at 16 points and we've got 3 at 12 points. It's very tight competition at the moment, and any game can really sway what happens with the ladder and the top 8.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to sort of see how this game plays out, and it should be another great game of VFL football. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll head back to Phil Edwards in the studio, and we'll be back for the Round 8 clash between Box Hill and Richmond here on 94.1 FM, 3WBC.
With every Box Hill Hawks game live, this is VFL Football on 94.1 FM, 3WBC.
What a magnificent game this has been here today at the home of football, the MCG, and the Tigers go forward again to try and get the knockout punch. Punt road in, left half forward, Cochin, wonderful pick-up, hand pass to Martin. Dusty's 30 metres out, over the top to re-roll for a goal. And the Tigers are racing away with this game.
Thanks, Rex. So when the final siren sounds, how would you like to be celebrated? Find out more at tobinbrothers.com.au. Tobin Brothers Funerals, celebrating lives.
Tobin Brothers Funerals are a 3WBC sponsor.
Ready, set. For Budget's best deals on car and truck rental, budget.com.au is good to go. It's where you'll find the best of Budget in a couple of clicks. Budget.com.au. With Budget, you're good to go.
Budget Rent-A-Car Blackburn is a proud sponsor of 94.1 FM 3WBC.
So get ready.
Join Brad Mullen, Peter Lausch and Paul Hooper every Monday night at 7 p.m. for VFL Rewind. They will give you a full wrap-up of all the games in the VFL men's and VFL women's competition. Hear from those in the game as we speak to players, coaches and umpires who all give their insight into the inner sanctum of their club. And every week we'll talk to our VFA Legend of the Week who will give us stories of their time on the field. VFL Rewind, Monday nights at 7 p.m. on 94.1 FM 3WBC.
M&R Davis Constructions have been building quality new homes for over 35 years. Let Mick and Robin project manage and build your new home or renovation. Their experience and guidance, along with attention to detail and integrity, shows why M&R Davis Constructions have been at the top of their game for nearly 4 decades. M&R Davis Constructions also build decks, pergolas and gazebos and are members of the Master Builders Association of Victoria. So give Mick a call on 0418 558 695. That's 0418 558 695. M&R Davis Constructions are proud 11-year broadcast sponsors of 94.1 FM 3WBC Football.
3WBC Football is brought to you with the support of our sponsors.
Budget Car and Truck Rental,
Tobin Brothers Funerals,
Birdie's Mini Golf and Sports Bar,
L&P Antiques and Collectibles,
Aaliyah Framing,
Piranha Foods,
M&R Davis Constructions,
Dragon City Tattoos,
Buffalo Sports
and the Blackburn Hotel. Thank you for your ongoing support of 94.1 FM 3WBC and 3WBC Football.
VFL Football, live and local on your community radio station. 94.1 FM, 3WBC.
.1 FM 3WBC. It's our pre-match, pre-match with thanks to Tobin Brothers on our coverage of the day between the Box Hill Hawks and Richmond. Plenty of other games going on in the VFL today. Southport taking on GWS. It is 16 minutes into the first term, and it is Southport 4 points to GWS 1 goal to 8. Also on today, North Melbourne and Casey Demons at Arden Street, and at 1 o'clock, Northern Bull Ants and Port Melbourne on at the Genis Street Oval. So there you go, plenty of action in the VFL. At halftime, I'll give you some score updates in the VFLW, of course the VFL, the AFL, and any other local sporting leagues around. For those who have tuned in to listen to Rae Bonney's program here on 94.1 FM 3WBC, you can listen to the last 5 minutes of it via our second stream, 3wbc.org.au. Click the listen button and you'll see there is a second stream option. So thanks to Rae for dropping off our last minute change in timing for the VFL coverage today, because of course the game has been moved to 12 o'clock. Remember, we're going to head back. Well, remember, we're going to head back. Of course we are. We're going to head back to the Box Hill City Oval now and welcome back our team for a couple of minutes of chat before the game starts just after 12. Over to you, Fletch. How are you?
Thank you, Phil. I'm very well, thank you, and I hope that all of our listeners are as well. It's been a great start to this game at the Box Hill City Oval, or the great start to the warm-up, I should be saying. This morning we woke up to some tragic news out of cricket, that Andrew Simons has tragically passed away, age 46, which is some terrible news, but we'll get back to the football now. It's going to be a big game of football. Richmond had a 37-point win last week over Port Melbourne, whereas Box Hill had a 94-point thumping win over Essendon. What are some of our final thoughts in this game?
I just want to make a quick mention, Fletch. I was listening to Rae Bonney's program this morning, and very insightful, very good interview of Rae Bonney. She interviewed a AFLW player from Collingwood, and just wanted to quickly mention that. It was a great lead into the football broadcast today. But I reckon Richmond are going to win by probably about 20 points, I'd say.
I think Richmond will take the chocolates today as well. I think we're going to see more like a 37-38 point margin today. We know last week Hoops was pretty much on the money with the margin in the end. But it'll be interesting today to see how Box Hill play against Richmond. I think this will be a real test for them and their skills. Of course, today at Box Hill City Oval, we do have quite a array of options in regards to food and drink. We've got the canteen, we've got the old grandstand bar, and there is normally a food truck stand here as well. So if you are listening and in the area, please come down and watch in person. If you want, you can come say hi to us after the broadcast as well. It'd be great to see even more people here than what is already here. We're looking about 500 already, Brad. 500 already, and the great man Michael Robinson's here. So there is royalty in the house as well. I think Sam Mitchell, we've got some famous people down here today. So yeah, if you're in the area, please come down. You're going to see a good game of football. It's going to start at a weird time of 12:01, so you've got yourself 4 minutes until the game starts. So come on down and have a bit of a look. 12:01, one of the most unique game time starts ever, Fletch.
Yeah, it's almost as unique as the fact that Clint Proctor, instead of walking out onto the ground through the gate, he jumped over the fence in front of all the fans here, and there was a bit of a cheer. But no, it's great to be here, and it's going to be a great game of football, a great crowd like we've mentioned, and it should be a really good game of footy. Pretty good conditions. There are a couple of clouds over the stadium, but other than that, it is perfect for footy.
Guys, just before you continue with the coverage, because obviously the game starts in 2 minutes, the game was changed, of course, because it is now a Channel 7 TV game. So you can watch it on TV, but you know what? It's $10 to get in down the ground. So just head down there, have a coffee, have a beer, enjoy the atmosphere. It's actually quite a good day outside. It's a bit overcast, but it's certainly not raining. So head down to the Box Hill City Oval and listen to 3WBC for your call if you want to hear some commentary as well.
Well said, Phil. Yeah, very good point. Just come down and have a look. But if you are far away from Box Hill City Oval, have a listen to us. Maybe flick on the Channel 7 stream, maybe mute them and listen to us, and you'll get a unique broadcast experience, that's for sure. We're about 3 or 4 minutes away from the game starting, and umpires are in the ground warming up. We haven't seen the coin toss yet, but Gemma Hooper will keep us across that when that does happen. As we did mention, the conditions aren't very bad here today. There's a little bit of breeze, but I'm not sure if it's favouring any end of the ground. Gemma Hooper's down there on the boundary. Gemma, does the wind conditions favour any end of the ground, or is it just a swirly breeze?
Just a bit of a swirly breeze at the moment. It has come down a little bit than what it was earlier when we were talking to Hugh Beasley. The breeze is heading towards the Whitehorse Road end of the ground, though, so it will be interesting to see how that impacts the rest of the game.
Yeah, it's going to be great to see how this game plays out, of course. Emerson Jecker will not play for Box Hill today. Unfortunately, he suffered a hamstring injury during last week's game. But I've got to mention we are going to have a couple of debutants here for Box Hill. Theon O'Hara, he's an Irishman. He will make his debut for the Box Hill Hawks today, which will be great for